aircrafts, and why not even the Bermuda Triangle. But now, how does it really work or affect our lives? Today, Bryan and I, we both are gonna make the science behind it edible for everybody. Así que, toma, te muaya y come nopal, que el Pulche Podcast va a comenzar. It's my pleasure to welcome to this space, Bryan.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
No, it's actually my pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
How are you, Bryan?
Great. Since we met, you have this energy that I knew you could extend into a nice podcast, and here I am. And thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it.
No way. I am really excited to have this podcast. So excited that I even got sponsors for today. We have Tequila Ron Don Abuelo from 509 Drinks, Tequila Soneto, and they gave us one caballito.
Un caballito.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Salud.
Yeah.
Salud. No, we didn't do it the right way. We didn't do it pa arriba, pa abajo, pa centro, pa adentro.
Great.
Suave.
Okay, great. Bryan, how would you describe yourself?
Well, I'd say I'm a person who's always been independent, always been confident in myself. We all have ups and downs, and we all have problems and struggles, but it's how fast you get up is what really counts in life, and I've always been one of those guys. So anything that you have going on in life, just be understanding that it's temporary, and you're gonna get through it, and life is always full of ups and downs, baby. Ups and downs.
I love it. What have been, let's say, your lowest down and your highest high?
Well, that's a good question. There's been many times, but there was a point in my life where I was actually sleeping in my car, as cliche as it sounds. I couldn't get a job, etc., etc. But I knew that it was only temporary, so sleeping in my car just gave me the motivation to proceed with life and find a job and just hit the pavement. I've been in aviation pretty much my whole life. Aviation has a lot of its own problems based on the economy. So airlines fire people and hire people daily. So I was one of those people that just got fired, lost his job, and couldn't get another one for months and months and months. But I knew with time that I was going to overcome that. So that was one of my hard points. But it's really how you take everything in life. It's your attitude. If you just know that you're going to succeed and get through things, it isn't as bad as you think.
Yeah, sometimes you just take it as every action needs a reaction, right?
Yes, like Newton's law.
Maybe one door is closing, but another one is getting open.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Bryan,
what it is, yeah.
Where did you study university, and how did all that interest for aircrafts and the sky started?
Well, I'm from New York originally, New York City. And I lived right near the airport, LaGuardia Airport in New York City. So every minute there would be a plane flying by, and I would stare out the window looking at the planes flying by. And it always was in my mind, like what's the next plane that's going to fly, what paint scheme it's going to have, things like that. So it just ingrained this vision in my mind that I'll probably be working with airplanes. My brother was an inspiration for me too, because he went to a high school that dedicated its curriculum to fixing airplanes, and I wanted to be like him. So I went to that same high school, graduated from that high school called Aviation High School. And then life just started after high school. I went into the Air Force, spent about 5 years there. Ironically, I didn't touch any airplanes. I was working on stuff outside of the airplanes, but it was still fun as it was. But I always had an interest in aviation since I was a young boy. My mother always took me flying around. We used to go on vacations, family vacations all the time. So airplanes were always in my mind. I would think about it day and night. And I still do, actually.
What is the most interesting part of a plane from your point of view?
Landing.
Landing.
Getting to where you want to go.
Okay.
Yes. Why? Well, because, the journey is usually long. For instance, to get to Taipei is like 16 hours or whatever it is from New York. That's a long journey, and you're always thinking, what am I going to do when I get there? And when are we getting there? You become anxious. I'm usually one of those people, I'm not too happy until I get there. When people say, are you excited you're going? No, I'm not excited until I get there. So that's when I'm happiest.
I know what's happening down the airplane, in front of the airplane, so I'm gonna be happy until I land.
Exactly. When I'm there and I'm positive I'm on land and I go through customs with my passport, I'm happy. It's good. That's the best time. But that's the best thing about an airplane, I think, or the whole trip process.
Like the landing, the last part.
Yes. Ironically, I was in an airplane crash, which we were talking about earlier, on an airline called Taka, which is not around anymore. They're out of business. Actually, Avianca bought Taka, so Taka doesn't exist anymore. I was on an airplane crash, and it was on landing, which was a scary event. 5 people died. And I walked out of there like a miraculous person, just brushing the dirt off my shoulder, and like it was a crazy event.
It was nothing. It was
nothing. I'm a survivor. No, what happened was it was a plane taking off from El Salvador going to Honduras, and the airplane was in good condition. The airport wasn't, and the pilot was newish. And the pilot had to do a go-around, so he had to do it twice. And the second time he landed, he overshot the runway and flew right off the runway and crashed into a ditch. It was like being in a movie. You know, I escaped through the back on a slide, and I looked back, and the plane was in pieces. So anybody watching, look it up, Taka 390 on YouTube. I was on that flight.
Taka's
390. Yeah, Taka flight.
You just said that Taka was bought by Avianca.
Yes, Avianca bought it out. The Colombians took over the El Salvadorian airline. So
maybe the name would be Avianca or something.
Maybe they should have made it like that, but they didn't.
Funny.
Because Avianca is a big group.
Yeah.
They own a lot of stuff, so they just bought out the airline, and it's a great airline.
Was it because of the crash?
No, they were in talks of expanding their fleet, and they wanted to expand into Central America because Avianca has a big status in South America, so Colombia, Ecuador, all these other countries in South America, so they wanted to branch off into Central America.
Okay.
So Taka was the major airline in Central America, so they figured, why compete? Let's just buy him out. And this is after the crash, so.
Capitalism.
Yes, capitalism at its finest, baby. I love it. I know everybody hates money and the root of all evil, etc. But capitalism is what makes this world go around. Don't ever forget that.
Yeah, that's right.
That's why everybody that you interview is doing this research, because the research turns into capitalism.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, that's what it is. You know, all the great teachers that you're introducing and all the podcasts, you have professors, they're studying to make companies get bigger profits. As bad as that sounds, it's part of the equation. You know, that's why you're so intelligent. You know where the money goes. You know.
I see that you are a very big fan of our podcast, and thank you very much.
I am. Pulche podcast, baby.
And I was gonna tell you that, like maybe going out of the topic a little bit, but that's why most of the universities in the USA are so expensive, because they are always paying for research and research. They reinvest most of that money into research, and that's why they need so much money, and that's why also why I said a lot of times why, but that's why the US it's always having new technologies, because all that money goes back into the basis that it's the research, right?
Yes, yes and no. I'm not one of those Americans that say America is the best and greatest and has a great country, love it, etc. But regarding the cost of college in the United States, it's astronomical and unnecessary. I'll give you an example. Not to talk numbers, but I paid 6 figures to get my college degrees. And
in US dollars?
In US dollars.
Or Vietnamese dollars?
No, I wish it was Vietnamese dollars or whatever that equates to. Whatever, it sounds cheaper. No offense to the Vietnamese, but I'm just saying that 6 figures in US dollars. And I felt like I didn't really get ahead or any better education than if I went to a cheaper university or a university in another country.
Yeah.
There's a lot of universities in Europe, a lot of countries in Europe, Groningen in Holland and some other places in Europe, that the universities are practically free. And the Europeans are way more advanced than a lot of American companies and economical status and financial status, all these different things. So Europe is a very way advanced country, but they don't spend so much, or the students don't spend so much on college. So where's all that money going? Yes, a lot of it goes to research, depending on what company you're dealing with. In the U.S., A lot of it gets reinvested into research, maybe in pharmaceutical companies, which is a big thing in the U.S.
Yeah.
I mean, where does the research money here in the university that you're with go to? Is that the same thing?
In the U, I mean, the tuition is not that high, but they are very good at research. Like their research money, from my point of view, I think it's a lot.
Yeah, I see that. You interview a lot of people doing research. So that's the specialty of the school, STEM research?
Yeah, that's right. This is a STEM podcast.
Well, that's what we're here
Yeah.
for. That's right. Well, my contribution to your podcast is the E part, probably the engineering part, aeronautical engineering. So that's my specialty. And that's why
What
we're
is your bachelor's degree?
I have a bachelor's degree in aviation maintenance. Guess how many years it took me to get that degree? Any number.
6.
20.
20.
20 years.
Why?
It took me 20 years to get the degree. I started studying in, I would say, right when I graduated high school, which, not to date myself, 1993, but that's when I started taking classes here and there. But 20, I'm exaggerating. It just took forever. I started taking classes here and there, but college was never for me. I could never focus. I could never pay attention. And at that time, there was no online classes, etc., etc. So I took a class here and there. That's why I joined the military right after high school. I wasn't ready for college.
Yeah.
And I thought the military would probably be fun and cool. I had no idea what I was going to do. So one day I saw the office. I said, let's see what happens. And then I left, and that was it.
For 5 years.
Yeah, for 5 years. And while I was I was taking classes here and there.
Yeah.
But when I got out, I still took classes and studied at different universities. I jumped from university to university because the cost was so high. And like I said, I was sleeping in my car, so I couldn't afford it. So
really?
It was during that time where I couldn't figure things out. But eventually I got my degree, I want to say, I don't know, 2010 or something. I don't even know. I forget, to be honest with you. 7, 8, 9, I don't know. It's from Thomas Edison State College, which is now Thomas Edison University in New Jersey.
Okay.
And at the time, online platform was new. And I was traveling so much around the world for my job that I figured I still want to study. It's always been a goal. Let me take online classes. And everybody's like, online is not a real way to study. That'll never take off. Online is just a fake degree, etc. I'm like, yeah, well, whatever. So I started when the online degrees first started becoming popular and cool. So it was difficult for me at first, but I did it, and then I finally graduated in aviation maintenance is what it was. I took the first degree that I could get the easiest and fastest because that was my job and it was affiliated.
Yeah.
It was a personal goal, really.
I mean, you were in high school, in an aviation high school.
Yes, right.
Then you joined the U.S. Air Force.
Yes, right.
And then you studied just like aviation.
Right. I was always in aviation. So then I finally got the degree. But I always tried different careers.
Yeah.
I also became a real estate agent. I became a life insurance agent. I became a commodities broker. I tried all these different careers while I was still studying at the school. So I would be working as a mechanic. Yeah, good.
I think that's very important to be doing different stuff so you really know what you like.
Oh, yeah. That's the whole concept of life, finding what makes you happy. Happiness is the true salary, not the money you make. It's what makes you happy. That's the true salary.
You said
Salud.
it. You said it.
Salud. But it's really what makes you feel comfortable in life. What makes you happy, what makes me happy could be two different things. Maybe somebody wants a lot of money. Maybe somebody doesn't want any money, but they want independence, and they're happy with just getting by in life. But I tried these different careers to see what I liked. So I would be a mechanic at night, fixing airplanes, 747, etc. During the day, I would sell real estate or life insurance or stocks, depending on what company I was with. I kept quitting,
Okay.
So that was my period of life for like about 5 years while I was studying. Right, while I was studying my college degree, right. But I always loved aviation, and then I finally gave up all my extracurricular other job searches and focused 100% in aviation.
Until you graduated.
Right.
And then you graduated, and where were you working?
I was working, when I finally graduated, I was working for Continental Airlines in Newark, New Jersey.
Okay.
So I was there for about a year, and I was working as a mechanic at that time on smaller airplanes, Embraer 135. They're just small regional jets. But I didn't like it, and I missed Miami. Long story short, I moved to Miami because I was engaged at the time, and then that didn't work out, and I ended up staying in Miami. But I went back to New Jersey just for that job, and I came right back down to Miami.
Okay.
That job lasted about 6 months or something like that. So I decided to focus on getting another aviation job that wasn't mechanic, because being a mechanic in airplanes, you're out in the sun all day, or you're out in the freezing cold. It depends where you are. So I wanted to be in aviation, but I got a different job. So I went to a different department called System Operations with JetBlue. That was my first true job, office job in aviation that I could say that I started enjoying and feeling happy with. And I was with JetBlue Airlines for 9 years, which is an American airline that flies domestically and in the Caribbean. So that's where I spent 9 years of my life.
Yeah, I saw that, and I also saw that JetBlue Airlines, they are a really good company. They haven't have like big problems in like 20 years, something like that. What can you say about that?
Well, they don't have any accidents because I was working there. That's why. Of course. I'm not conceited. I'm convinced.
I see the basis of that company. That company is running because of me.
No, they do have a good track record to this day. Still, they have a great aviation track record. They had one accident, I guess you could say. A plane was landing and the nose gear was turned 90 degrees to the right.
Okay.
But they still landed in Los Angeles, and it was a perfect landing. But they have a great track record. No accidents. A lot of airlines, even if they have accidents, they still continue flying. American Airlines has crashed many, many times throughout the years, but they're still a powerhouse in the airline industry. But it really goes to show you that the safety record of an airline as compared to safety record of anybody driving is much safer. Like, you could get hit and killed by a car on the street more than an airplane crash or something like that. So aviation's always been a great feeling of safety, a safety factor throughout history. Yeah.
And that safety is okay. When you were a mechanic, which parts of the airplane were you looking at? Did you need to focus on all the plane, or you were just focusing, or okay, let's say in the landing area, like in
Correct.
that part, or in the, I don't know, like which parts?
Yeah, when you're a mechanic, there's a license called A&P, airframe and power plant.
Okay.
Some people specify only on the airframe, which is the body of the airplane. Some people only specify their talents on the power plants, with the engines. I did both. I was a mix of both. I wasn't the best mechanic, 100%, so to speak, but I did focus on engines more than anything. You know, if you want to be real, this is a real podcast. I wasn't the best airplane mechanic. Never mind what I said about the safety record. But
I fixed the Taka at 390.
Yeah, I fixed it. That's why I went down.
Okay.
Wait, you're insulting me. Wait a minute.
No,
No, I liked being a mechanic. It was a lot of work, but there were plenty of other people that knew the airplane like the back of their hand. They knew everything about that airplane. So my specialty was everything, both the airplane and the engines. It's really each day, if there's a problem, you don't know what you're going to be dealing with. One day there's a problem with the engines, they say fix it, you fix it. If there's a problem with the landing gear, they say fix it, you fix it.
Yeah.
So I was an all-around guy. So you never know what you're going to get. In Europe, the license is broken down into what type of airplanes you'll be dealing with. So if you have a license just for a 747 or a 737, you could only work on those airplanes. In the United States, if you have one license, you can work on any airplane. Even with no experience, you're legally authorized to work on any airplane. So my first airplane was the 747, which is why I keep talking about it. So when they first assigned me to this plane with my first company that I worked for, which is Tower Air, they went out of business a long time ago. That was the first plane I learned on, and it was intimidating. I looked at it, I'm like, how am I going to figure this out? But in the end, I started learning it.
And which one do you think is better? The European way of having different certificates, or the American way having only one for most of the aircrafts?
I'm so used to the American way, I would say the American way, because it's proof that I have experience on all different types of manufacturers, Airbus, Boeing, all of them, and I didn't get any specified licenses for any airplane, which no American license holder does. But I learned all the airplanes and how they work and what they need to do to be taken care of. So I feel the American way is better. I hate to say American or European way, but in this case, I'll say the American way. The European way is more refined. Would I say they have more experts in certain airplanes? Yes. They're better in that sense. They'll have more experts dedicated to a 737 because that's what their license is dedicated to. And sometimes that's all they work. Those mechanics don't touch any type of airplane. Which is why I say I was never that great, because I never felt I became an expert on one plane.
Okay.
Yes, I became okay, good enough for all of them.
In Spanish we say, el que mucho abarca, poco aprieta.
Eso, exactamente,
right?
eso es.
The more things you want to do or work on, the less you focus on one. That it was, I would think of that was what happened to you in university. That you were being a broker, like real estate, everything. That you couldn't focus on one thing and be good at it.
Yeah,
like
man.
Right now.
I was finding myself. We're all finding ourselves in a way. We're all finding ourselves. You could be young or old. In some way, shape, or form, you're always finding yourself, whether it be a degree or some type of hobby. You're always finding yourself. And I'm constantly looking for the next big thing. When you told me I want to interview you for a podcast, I'm like, I haven't really done that before. That's a great thing. Thank you for that. So I was looking forward to this when you said, we're going to meet at 12 o'clock on Saturday and this and that. I was like, okay, good. I was excited. So I said, this is a new thing. I'm always finding new opportunities for myself to grow and speak. And people are forced to listen to me in this microphone. Usually they walk away. So now they're forced to listen to me if they don't click end or fast forward, So
I'm pretty sure they won't. And Bryan, I would like to ask you, then, like following like this timeline, after being working as a mechanic, and you went to JetBlue, what was your job at JetBlue?
My job was called an aircraft router. What I do was I would schedule the airplanes into different cities so maintenance can be done at those cities.
Okay.
So if an airplane needs to have its tires checked or whatever, for whatever reason, and it needs to go to Los Angeles to do that, I would switch the schedule around so the airplane flies to Orlando. That's why when you're in the airport and you say, if you're on flight 123, your gate change, you have a gate change, you're going to have to go to gate number 5 instead of gate number 8. So then you take all of your stuff and you move to the other gate. That's part of the aircraft routing process.
Okay.
That's why you always, why are they changing the gate? Here we are, blah, blah, blah. So that's why you have gate changes, because it's either for maintenance or maintenance due or maintenance is coming or something like that. So that's what I was doing for a while. Then I switched over into the heavy maintenance division, which means that I was overseeing the airplane's heavy modifications to it. So for example, if you have your car, you would change your oil yourself in your garage. You can do it yourself. You probably know how to do it. But if you're going to change the engine, you would send it to Toyota or wherever your car is, and they would do it for you. Exactly. So JetBlue has the same issue, or any airline has the same problem. They would send it out to a company to do the main modifications, and that's where they would go. In this case, I was in charge of the operation in El Salvador. So I spent most of my time in El Salvador. So 9 years in JetBlue, 8 of them was in El Salvador, I would say.
How many?
About 8 of them in El Salvador.
Wow.
Yeah,
so
about 8
most of the time?
Yes, a lot of it. I would go to Canada, Tennessee, and some other places for the company, but a lot of my time was in El Salvador, which I loved every single minute. I loved every second of it. I was looking forward to going there every time I had time off. So El Salvador, which was Taka Airlines at the time, Taka had a maintenance division, which changed the name to Aeromantenimiento, and then they changed their name again to something else, MRO Holdings, I forget. But anyway, long story short, I would go there and just oversee the maintenance and modifications, and that's what I was doing for a long time.
That's incredible. And then how about after JetBlue? What was your next step?
I got tired of the company. It's a great company. I liked my job. There's no reason to leave. I just wanted to grow and expand and find myself once again. So I quit. I knew what I wanted to do. It's just a little bit of time to take off. At the time, I knew I wanted to work with the banks because banks actually own the airplanes. Airlines don't own the airplanes, which is another industry called aircraft leasing. A lot of people don't know that airlines don't own their planes. The banks do. So the airlines lease the planes from the banks, which you can buy a car, but you're actually leasing it, and then you return it at the end of 3 years or whatever it is.
Oh.
So I wanted to follow where the money was. The banks have all the money. So I said, why am I working for the airline when I could go to the banks and see what business I can do? So I quit JetBlue. I had no contacts, no clients, no business, no nothing. Just me and my word, me and the telephone say, hey, give me money, put me to work. That's basically, I was making 200 phone calls a day just to get some business. So I would call the banks directly and say, hey, let me be your eyes and ears for you in the United States. I'll handle all these transactions, technical transactions, and let me be a part of your company as an extension, as a private consultant, a private firm. Yeah. They finally, one guy said yes. And I said, great. So what that means is I would either deliver a new plane to an airline if they're buying one, or if the plane was at the end of its lease, I would take it back and give it to the next operator. Operator meaning airline. So that's what I started doing in the beginning.
And there are two types of leasing, right? Like
yes.
Dry one and wet one.
Correct.
What are the difference?
Correct. A dry lease and a wet lease. So dry lease is what American Airlines would have with a bank. So they are just renting the plane and they take care of everything. The maintenance, the crew, the scheduling of they take care of everything. All they do is pay the bank a monthly fee, and the bank is happy and the airline is happy. Airline has full control of the airplane.
Okay.
The wet lease, also called ACMI lease, is the aircraft crew maintenance and insurance. That is when a lease happens for an airline, but the person who owns the airplane and has a wet lease, all they're doing is supplying the crew, basically, and all the other stuff is already paid for in advance. So there's a difference. So a lot of cargo companies have what's called ACMI leases. And ACMI, aircraft crew maintenance and insurance.
Oh, okay,
right.
Okay.
So Amazon, they have their own airline now. They do ACMI leases.
They've got everything right
Yeah, they own the world. They're taking over the world. You know, wherever they can go, they go. They have a lot of ACMI, wet leases with other airlines because they don't have enough planes. So they have to subcontract other airlines to handle those divisions. So that's what it means. It's really like a subcontract to another airline. Basic is what it is.
Okay, Bryan, but what are the, let's go a little bit more to the point. What is the difference, between the crew, between the airplane, between this dry lease and the wet lease?
Yes. Well, what happens is the crew, to get pilots, well, nowadays, because of the corona, there's pilots everywhere that want to work. But a lot of times, in good times, it's difficult to get a crew. Before Corona happened, there was a shortage of pilots. Pilots were being thrown money left and right to fly around the world, anywhere around the world. But now there's a shortage of work compared to pilots that are on the street. So the benefits to a wet lease is that it's a simple contract. So if Amazon has a peak season, let's say for Christmas, and they can't handle all of it, they'll subcontract another company such as UPS and create the wet lease or ACMI lease. So UPS will handle the aircraft, the crew, the maintenance, and the insurance. Amazon will simply give them the boxes to fly to wherever. And that's where a wet lease comes into play. But American Airlines or Continental or any other airline, they have dry leases because it's consistent passenger work. And there's no ups and downs. They know how many passengers are going to fly in a year. So they have a dry lease. They want full control of all their airplanes. Amazon, if they subcontract out, they have no control over the airplanes or their boxes once they go to another airline. So that's the risk they take, but it's not so much of a risk. So
it could be taken into an example. like when people rent a house, right? Like
Yes.
sometimes you pay for the expenses
Yes.
and all of that. That would be the
Exactly.
dry lease.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the wet lease would be when the
Yes.
landowner, the house owner,
Yes.
pays for it, right?
Yes, that's correct. Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And that's the same example. That's a perfect annotation. That's exactly how it works. And that, to me, was sexy. That's why I left JetBlue. The whole aircraft leasing world was sexy. And I said, I want to get involved with this. It was a sexy, beautiful woman that I wanted to be involved with. So I left JetBlue. And I got involved with the aircraft leasing industry to be a person who delivers planes or takes them back. I also repossess planes from airlines. A lot of airlines don't pay the bills. They don't pay the bills. And guess who they're calling to take it back? That's me. That's me. They called me Repo Man. So I take back the
Repo Man.
airplanes. Yeah, Repo Man.
Okay.
Repossession. So, and that's common in the industry. A lot of airlines, they don't have money in the bank. And when they don't pay, the banks call me specifically to go take that airplane back. Legally, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
But a lot of times the airplane's sitting in the desert in Arizona or California or someplace, just sitting there, dying, waiting for either a payment or for it to go to the next operator. That's where my business comes in, and I handle that transaction.
Okay, and Bryan, may I ask you what brought you to Taiwan?
Another contract. My company oversees what I just explained to you, aircraft leasing, etc. But I also do maintenance modifications oversight. So that means that if an airline wants to bring a new airplane onto their certification and do certain modifications to it, they call me to monitor the operation. So basically, I have an oversight. I manage the whole operation. So in particular, this airline that contracted me, they have a specific airplane, 2 airplanes, that now in the world is difficult to have maintenance done on. But the number one place to have these planes worked on is right here in Taipei, Taiwan. And that is by EGAT. EGAT is the division of EVA Airways, and I'm sure you know EVA Air.
Yeah.
So EVA has a maintenance division called EGAT, Evergreen Aviation Technologies. That operation handles 747s and MD-11s, which are basically not in operation around the world anymore for passengers. But in cargo, they're still a big operation. And Taiwan is the number one provider for these type of airplanes. Now, some people would say that, there's another location that's number one, this and that. In this case, Taiwan is number one for these airplanes. Why? The quality you get, for the price that you get, etc. This is the place to be. I was contracted to come here to make sure that this plane is done properly so it could get on the airline certification, out flying and making that money. Back to capitalism. Always back to capitalism. So if an airplane needs to go out and fly revenue flights and make that money, they have to have the right team in place to make that happen. So I came here to make sure that happens.
That's awesome. And going a little bit more straight, when I met you, we went to a waterfall.
Yes.
And I don't know if you remember that our friend David, he had an accident with his drone. What can you tell us about the drone industry? Because I know that you are also someone that likes a lot like this topic.
Yes, the drone industry is taking off, and David did have an unfortunate accident. He has his own YouTube channel, I forget the name of it, but he's building his own YouTube following. Yes, when we met, we went to the waterfalls, a mutual group of friends. We all went as a group, had a great time. The drone industry is escalating tenfold by now. So drones can be used for anything, not just taking photos and videos, etc. Now, as probably everybody knows by now, you could deliver packages. That is coming. At some point, that is coming. The drone industry that I'm involved with is, I have a drone Part 107 certification, which means that law enforcement and residential construction industries can call me to hire drones with infrared cameras to do structural inspections of the airplane. You've heard what happened in Miami Beach lately with unfortunate building collapsing.
Not really.
You didn't hear about that?
No.
There's a building
Half
that
of
collapsed.
the building, right?
Half of the building. That's
okay,
the one.
I think I saw some images.
Unfortunately, that building collapsed and there was a big accident. That's for structural problems with the building. Who knows what happened? But A lot of preventive maintenance now is being switched over to the drone industry with infrared cameras. So construction companies fit these drones with infrared cameras, and they scan the whole building to see where structurally it's cracking or where it's not cracking.
Yeah.
And that is the new industry that exists nowadays. You have to have special licenses and certifications. That it's still in its infancy, in the beginning phases, but I am getting involved with that also. So I see that as a good future on the rise also. It could be used for anything, really, these infrared cameras.
What are the cons? Let's say, because infrared cameras, let's go straight. How about the privacy of the people?
Correct.
When they are like looking at drones flying over their houses, like
Yeah.
going this way, going
Yeah.
this other way, at one
Yeah.
moment you won't know
Yeah.
who's spying you
Yeah.
or who's working.
Yeah, that is true. That is probably the number one issue with drones. It's people feel like they're being spied on. However, we are always being spied on. That phone that you're carrying in your pocket, it's listening to you, it's watching you. People don't want to believe it, but when you accept those terms, they're watching you. They're watching and listening to every single word you say.
They're watching us.
They're watching you. Now here comes the sound effects. They're watching you. So privacy will always be a concern with drones. But unfortunately nowadays, you have to submit to the fact that you are always being watched. When you walk around these streets in Taipei, you are being watched. There's cameras everywhere.
Of course.
And anywhere you go in the world now, there's cameras everywhere. So the difference is that when you see your drone, you're actually seeing it and it's moving around, and you take it personal because why is it watching me? But the fact is you're already being watched by cameras all over the place. So that is something that will probably never go away, myself included. I don't like cameras watching me all the time. Hence, this is my first podcast, so I have to get used to it. I love all these cameras watching me. It's great. Thank you again. But it is something that people will have to get over and just feel like it's going to be a norm in society. That's just the way it is. Big Brother is always watching.
And how about like talking still over there in that line, like using drones as weapons? Oh, what is your opinion about that?
Yeah, that's the new technology that most military units are trying to go towards. I know I was in the military myself, ironically, but I'm not a fighter. I'm a lover. I don't really believe in the weapon so much. Now,
But what did you see? Let's say if you
I
can
do
say
see that
something.
happening. It's inevitable. It's
Yeah.
just inevitable. They're going to put flamethrowers on these things. They're going to put guns, all sorts of stuff. That's already in the works. I read up on that myself. I'm in shock when I read it, but war is a reality. War will never go away. Violence will never go away. It is a reality, and it's unfortunate. I do own personal guns. I use it to shoot at the range, but I feel like that's all I use it for. It's not because in case somebody breaks into my house,
Oh, okay.
I would shoot him in the foot maybe, but that's about it. Like, I'm not that guy. What are you doing? I just do it to go to the shooting range just so I could feel cool. But weapons outfitted to drones, it's inevitable. It's going to be coming. The things that we think that are so far-fetched, no, that'll never happen. They happen. They happen all the time. We never thought the internet would happen. It came. We never thought internet, Wi-Fi spots, cellular phone, none of that existed 50 years ago. So it's happening. These things happen. So yeah. Do I agree with it? It is what it is. You can't escape these weapons nowadays,
Yeah, and like as you said, like nobody ever think about it. Like
Yeah.
we can take as an example our parents at the beginning. Well, my parents. I don't know about yours, but my parents at the beginning when cell phones were starting to be out, they were like, oh, the phones are gonna take over the world, blah blah blah. They didn't want to give their kids a phone, and right now your kid is 3 years old, give him a phone so he can play something, things like that. And I'm pretty sure if in that time, let's say 15 years ago, more or less, if you tell them you are gonna be able to pay bills with your phone, I'm pretty sure many people would have been like, no, I don't believe it. Never. So something like that is happening with drones. And like most of the technology comes from the army.
Yeah.
Because the army gives a lot of money, things like that.
Yes.
Capitalism again. And I wanted to ask you like this. Something that also like nobody thought of, that it's cryptocurrencies. like, what is your stand for cryptocurrencies, blockchain, and all of that, but in the aviation area? What do you think about it?
If you don't buy cryptocurrency now, you're losing out. You need to get an account with Coinbase and invest, of course, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and any other silly other coin that exists. At least buy one coin of each, which is what I have. Cryptocurrency is the new future. I think that, and I'm pushing for it. I'm pushing for it also. I would love to have airlines accept payments in the form of Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, any cryptocurrency. Right now, it's hard to believe because nobody understands it. It's a ledger. It's an Excel spreadsheet, a ledger that became fancy and unbreakable. And nobody understands blockchain 100% unless it's the people that created it. I can't explain it to you, but I know it. I believe in it. It's already happening. I invest in it a lot myself. And one day it will be the norm. Just like that phone that your parents gave you that they didn't believe you're going to pay phone bills with on, that you are now. It will be happening. Crypto, the governments are against it because they can't control it. They don't understand it. The governments have no idea how they're going to tax it. Now they don't have any idea. Which is why if I give you one Bitcoin currently worth at $30,000, and you say, okay, if you give me one Bitcoin, I'll sell you my house. And that's what's happening now. That's what's happening real time nowadays. People are exchanging. It's called bartering in English, obviously if everybody's watching. But anybody who barters isn't necessarily focused on money. You have this microphone. I like it. I like this microphone. I have this glass. It says sombrero negro on it, right? Maybe it's the only one made. Let's trade. That's bartering. That's what's happening with cryptocurrency. I'll have one Bitcoin, and I want that microphone. That's the only one made. I'll give you my one Bitcoin. You give me that microphone. Trade. That is what's happening. Trade. That is what's happening. And that is going to extend in all different levels of society. That doesn't currently exist now. It just seems crazy to everybody because nobody understands it. But it's coming. NFT, non-fungible tokens, those are popular. Any cryptocurrency, all that stuff is coming. It's the time to buy now.
But don't you think that over there we will have two variables? Like you just mentioned that you were a real estate broker, right? So sometimes the land goes down, like the price of the house goes down. Sometimes it goes high, and then it will not only be the price of the house, but also the price of Bitcoin, because maybe one day your house will be worth $60,000, and then in 3 months, it's gonna be 40.
That's right.
So how is it gonna work? Or
how do you overcome that risk? That is the power of dollar cost averaging. That's called dollar cost averaging, and compound interest, and the rule of 72. All these factors come into play when it comes to investing in money. I think cryptocurrency is just going to be the same. If you dedicate yourself, which is what I do, I have a certain amount of money each month going into cryptocurrency. Whether it's worth high or low, I have the same amount going in, because that's what's called dollar cost averaging. That's been in existence since the stock market was created. So as long as you keep putting in money, whether the market go up and down, I should say, it averages out in the end. In the end, it always averages out, and that's where dollar cost averaging comes into play. Compound interest is a huge factor. The earlier you invest, the more money you make. So I wish I invested when I was a teenager. So the earlier you invest, the interest builds upon interest, whether it's cryptocurrency or any other type of currency, and time is on your side. That's where you have to get in early. That's true with anything in life. You have to get in early, invest early. Don't blow your money on stuff that you don't need. Just invest a little bit. If I started investing now at my age, and compared to somebody who's 18, and we invest the same amount, let's say I invest $10,000 now, one payment, and an 18-year-old invests $10,000. 10 years from now, that 18-year-old will have an investment that's probably worth double, when mine would only be worth another maybe $2,000. So that's if you have it in the bank, at 0.01 interest, So anyway, not to go off on a tangent, but cryptocurrency is going to have its ups and downs. Real estate will always have ups and downs. Any market will have ups and downs. you just have to take emotion out of investment and just focus on the end goal. That's true with anything. Just focus on the end goal. Architects create buildings with the end goal, and they work backward from there.
Yeah.
That's what you have to focus on. Start with the end in mind first and work backwards.
I was actually talking with one of my best friends. She wants to write a book. So I was telling her, we all people, we read the book once it's done, right? But she told me like, oh, I don't know how to do it, how to start, like blah, blah, blah. And I told her, why don't you start with the book being resumed in 5 lines?
Mm-hmm.
Like you resume the complete book in 5 lines, and then you start like, okay, I started with 5 lines, let's make it 15. Now let's make it, I don't know, 30. Let's make it 50.
Yeah.
And then you start like making it longer,
Poco a
but
poco.
starting poco a poco from the beginning and keeping track of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's the same as you were saying.
Exactly. The key is that you just have to do it and take action. And I feel like if you have an idea, don't think about it, don't worry about the concept, just do. Take action. There's 4 types of action. There's an action plan where you do and commit. There's no action, there's mediocre, and then there's massive action. Massive action is what really takes to get through in this world.
Yeah.
Take massive action. Let the chips fall where they may. Just do what you got to do and just deal with the consequences or deal with the benefits. But you have to take massive action anytime. Look at this. Here's this tequila, right? I'm going to ask you, here you go. Salud. I'm going to say, try and pick this up.
Yeah.
Try and pick up my glass. Try and pick it up. Okay, look. You see what you did? You picked it up. Trying to pick it up is like this. That's trying, but you picked it up. And that's the key to life. If you keep trying, you'll never grab your goal. You have to pick it up and do it. You tell your friend you write that book and don't worry about anything.
Yeah, it's like, try to...
Exactly.
Yeah, you say, try it.
If you try, you'll never get your goal. You just have to do it.
But what is it trying? Like, is it doing it or is it not doing it?
I feel like trying is always a feeble attempt. I'll try it, this and that. Just do it and see what happens. I fail all the time. I fail all the time. I'm always trying new things. Always. That's why I said I tried being a real estate agent, this and that. I was never good at any of that stuff. But I learned a lot of different things. I just did it. And you just keep doing. And that's how I feel my philosophy with life is just do it. Like Nike says, just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. That's just the way to go.
I was going to ask you, how about, I know that you're a DJ. So you also just did it. You just became a DJ. How is it working in your life or...
Yeah, I actually, ever since I was a teenager, I was a DJ, actually, on vinyl. And I used to spin records and I used to do weddings and things like that. But because I left home when I was 17 and the military and traveling around, I put it off. But I always listened to music. I always loved to have a collection, etc., etc. So last year I had a lot of time in my hands and I said, I'm going to get back into it. So I realized that things changed through the years. Now everything's digital. Everything is switched over from analog to digital. I'm
you
like,
still
what
have
happened?
your CDs
Yeah,
over there
I
with
have
your
everything.
mixes?
Yeah, I'm like, wow, I got to learn this all over again.
Your tapes.
So I said, I'm just going to do it. So next thing you know, I started getting back in because the basics is still the same and I still love music. I play mostly funk and hip hop and house and things like that.
Yeah.
And I love all of it. I love all music. So that wasn't a problem. It was just putting it together. So then I said, okay, long story short, I started connecting with some people, some local DJs in the Miami area. And then they started putting me into small lounge clubs. So I started playing in lounges here and there. And I'm like, man, I can't believe I'm actually doing this in public because I'm a very private person.
Yeah.
But the music speaks for itself. So I always have fun with it. And so now I've only been doing it a year now. But I'm at a point where it's growing now. Once I leave here, I have some other plans also for that. It's a great, I hate to say the word hobby, but it's a passion. It's a passion I've always had since I was a young teenager. And now I can start all over with the new digital age of DJing, I guess you could say. And my page is on SoundCloud. I'll give you the link and you could put it in the podcast.
Yeah, we can find you as Purple Sun Radio, right?
Yeah, right. DJ Purple Sun Radio.
DJ Purple
How did I
Sun.
get that name?
I was going to ask you exactly.
Purple is
the same way, brother.
Purple is my favorite color.
Yeah.
Sun is because after my son, I think of him when I play music too. But I didn't want to put S-O-N. I put sun, S-U-N, like the sun.
Okay.
Radio, because a radio station plays all types of music, and I love all types of music. So Purple Sun Radio, and that's where that comes from. Nothing fancy, nothing philosophical.
But it sounds cool, you know? Purple Sun Radio. Some people might think of a purple sun.
Yeah, maybe.
Right?
It fits because I like to play in the night. I like to play when the sun is setting anyway, and then when it's coming up. So either way, I like
the purple sun, aka the moon.
Yeah,
comes
also,
out.
yeah,
Ooh.
right. So I try
That's a
to
good
make
one,
the
huh?
settings, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's why I like it. So it's a fun thing for me to do. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I appreciate it.
And does it make you happy?
Yeah, that's one of my passions. That if I quit anything that I'm doing today, all my businesses, all my work, if I quit everything, that's one thing I would not stop doing. I regretted quitting it years ago.
Yeah.
But music has always been an escape for me. Any music around the world, and everywhere I go, I try to look for records. Well, now I'm going to look for digital downloads of music specific to that country. And I love downloading new music from different countries around the world. I just love it.
And I think I would like to say this during this podcast about happiness, because you were saying that there are so many ways to find happiness. One of them is, as you said, like aviation. Other one is music for you. Other one is being a real estate. Like many ways. And I don't know if you've listened about the metaphor of the 4 blind people with the elephant. You haven't listened about it? There are 4 people. Each of them is touching one part of the elephant.
Okay.
So one of them, he's saying like, "Oh, it's long, like the trunk, right?
Okay.
It's long. It has like 2 holes at the end." And the other one is saying, "No, it's round and big, and it has 2 things where you can hand it," because he was at the top of the elephant. The other one was like, "No, it is like a tree, you know? It's a tree, and then it has some weird things at the end," because he was like touching the legs. And the other one is like, "No, it's like a little bit fluffy, it has hair," because he was touching the tail. So happiness is the same. It's so big that you cannot, let's say each blind person is one way of happiness.
Okay.
So you need a lot of ways
You
of
just taught me
happiness
something.
in order to really know how big is happiness, how big that feeling is, right?
Wow.
I love that metaphor.
That's a great metaphor. Wow. I would love, let me see, who would I be? I'd be the guy hugging the leg. That's what I would be. Because I'm short.
So far,
this feels good.
So far, you're hugging only one leg
Yes,
or
one
the
leg.
4 of them?
Right. Well, I guess that's true. Which one?
You need to know, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
But that's an excellent metaphor about happiness. You know, go in blind and see what makes you feel good.
And there are so many ways to know how happiness feels.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in doing what makes you happy and this and that. There's so many books on it. But a lot of people don't feel it. I've always been happy, I guess you could say. I'm happy with myself, happy with the world, as crazy as the world is or crazy as other people is. You have to find happiness and love within yourself before you could love others, and I love myself. So that's how I could bring happiness and feel happiness in everything that I do. And that metaphor is an excellent example of what passion and feelings should be inside somebody's own self. That character and integrity that you bring to life should be exposed, and you should pay it forward to other people also. That's how I feel.
Yeah, of course. I feel it that way too.
Yeah.
I really go to the way like you need a lot of ways. You need to find a lot of ways of happiness in order to really know what is happiness.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
For sure, yeah. That comes down to, like I keep saying, finding yourself and things like that. And you know, it's just a matter of how you feel in the present. Like a lot of people think like, oh, when I graduate college, then I'll be happy. Yeah. No. Now is the time to be happy. Now is the time to be happy. Not in the future, not yesterday. Right now, I'm happy to talk to you on Pulche Podcast, having my tequila, and we're having a good time. Now is happiness in the moment.
Yeah,
that is
right.
key to life. In the moment.
And in the moment and at the right place, because some places are very good for having happiness and some others, they just don't let you some toxic places that many people call it, right?
Yeah.
And I would like to take into like consideration the atmosphere. This beautiful place, Teotihuacan restaurant. What do you think about it? There are many pictures of many people. Which one do you like the most?
I love the decor. I love that they have these different colors here with the lights coming in. This brings life to the restaurant. That's why I came here a few times. I do know this restaurant. I've come here a few times before the corona happened. I came here specifically for this outlook, even though they placed me over here to sit where the sun isn't. But I love this attitude and this feeling right here. It brings a different type of vibe and aura, the way it looks. I'm looking at pictures of the movie stars here. I see Cantinflas here, who was my favorite when I was a boy. Watching his pants drop every 2 seconds in the movie just made me laugh all the time. It was great. My mother loved watching him. My father, too. He didn't understand the word he was saying. Because my father only spoke English. My mother was Ecuadorian. I'm half Ecuadorian.
Oh, okay.
So my mother
That's
watched
why
all
the
the
green eyes.
Cantinflas. Yeah,
Right?
I take it from her. Actually, no, she had the green eyes. Actually.
Oh, really?
She had the green eyes. My father had the darker eyes, like this color.
Really?
You know, yeah. But she would watch Cantinflas in the house, and my father would laugh also, just because of how funny he was, and all the Mexican cowboy movies. We loved it. We watched it all the time. All the time when I was a boy. Yeah, I loved it too. La India Maria, you know her too.
La India Maria, of course. Till this day, it's a classic.
Oh my God.
Like, it's
I
so funny to
still watch it. I still watch La India Maria. Whoever's out there watching this podcast, watch La India Maria. You'll have a great time. And Cantinflas.
Get yourself a little bit of culture. Go for it.
Yes. Absorb yourself in the Mexican culture. Represent. Represent, baby. Yeah.
And Bryan, I would like to ask you, how about Mexican folklore music? Like, I don't know if you listen about Pedro Infante.
Yes.
Have you tried bringing Pedro Infante to your mixes or something like that?
No. I mean, I haven't gone that road yet, but I like norteño music. Yeah, I love all of that. I do listen to like old mariachi type of music and El Rey, all those famous songs. You know, that's when you sing the El Rey.
I have two
all
songs.
Those things. Really? Which ones?
El Rey and Caballo Prieto Azabache.
I don't remember that one.
El Rey makes me cry.
Hearing that one. I would cry right now with you. We were listening to it.
Wait, El Rey makes me cry. Let's say 5 teardrops. But Caballo Prieto Azabache, I can cry a whole sea with that song.
I'm gonna look at. Is it one of those songs that I know but I don't know the name? Is it one of those?
I don't know, but this song talks about the history of a horse that gave his life for his owner.
Okay.
And it reminds me of my horse. And brother, that song just breaks me in pieces every time.
I'm gonna look that up. I
cannot show it to you because I would cry, but I'm gonna give it to you.
I'm gonna look it up. I see what you're saying. I'm gonna look it up. But no, I haven't, and that's actually probably a good challenge for me to do, to incorporate that into my sets. I'm always playing different types of genres anyway, so why not? You know, I'll check it out.
And Bryan, what's next for you?
Next. What isn't next? What isn't next? I'm always doing new things. Now I have a new business venture whereby it's recycling old aircraft parts that are considered not usable or not being able to refix or rebuild and resell. Because I also have a business where I buy aircraft parts and resell them to other airlines. But certain parts just cannot be fixed.
Yeah.
So what happens with those parts? A lot of it is collected and it goes nowhere. A new business that I have is that I'm going to take those parts and recycle them, either have them burned down for the metals that they have, etc. So it's another way of cleaning up the planet, but really capitalism, you know, at its finest. I say it's a green economy. It's capitalism, you know. That's what
there
it
are
is.
many companies that they are like, oh no, but we are doing good things.
No.
But it's just capitalism.
No, pura paja. No.
It's capitalism with a lot of makeup.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Like, let's be honest.
It's true. The good thing with me is that I'll say that for about half a second, and I say, yeah, but really it's capitalism. I'm just reselling it to make some money. You know, it's not all about money. It's just that I think it's a great business that would make me happy. It's kind of, I don't want to say easy to do, but it's a good niche.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good niche. If you find that niche that you could probably focus on, and it's an underserved market, it might be a good thing. So that's my next challenge: recycling aircraft parts.
But that's very important, because I have always, like, I'm a chemical engineer.
Yeah.
Well, in 1 year I will be.
When you graduate, you'll be happier when you are.
I'm already happy.
That's the right answer. I was looking for that. Right answer. That's the right answer.
Arriba, abajo,
Abajo,
al
al centro, para adentro.
Yeah.
And
But-
this makes you even happier.
Yeah. I was going to say that as a chemical engineer or a student of chemical engineering, I think that recycling is really the future of everything.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because what in the world, what in the earth, it's illimited. Nothing.
No.
All of the things that we have are limited.
Correct.
There are some ones that we have a big amounts of it, but there are some others that we don't.
Uh-huh.
One big example could be helium.
Uh-huh.
Helium, it's a gas, an element that goes away of Earth.
Uh-huh.
So the complete Earth is running out of helium.
Okay.
We are running out of helium. So something else, it could be gold. We are running out of gold. Most of our gold is deep in the sea because of the pirate, because of whatever.
Yeah.
And when we go to recycling, that's going to be the future. Because we're going to need to take all that trash that we've done and check what is inside and bring new parts, like make new parts, new things with all that trash.
Yeah.
Something very interesting is wind energy. All of those big turbines, right now, some companies, they are making them of recyclable materials, but some others don't. But we will need to go to the recyclable materials stage in a very close future.
Yeah, I think you have a point there, because gold is finite. There's not going to be...
life is finite.
Life is
happiness
is
even
finite.
happiness.
Everything is finite, right? But helium, what do you use that for except for blowing up balloons and talking like this, like a weirdo?
Like, so far...
But this dissipating from... I know there's
Yeah.
an element that it's useful for, right? But what is it?
helium, it's formed in the sun, mainly.
Oh, that's
When-
right. Yes,
when
that's right.
two hydrogen
I'm
atoms...
trying to remember my science classes. I remember.
Here's a Pulche podcast to remind you. Don't worry.
That's right. No, you're right. I think recycling. I'm not a save the planet type of guy, but
Yeah.
I agree. Recycling has to be a key element in today's industries now more than ever. There's stuff running out all the time, and there's good business to be had from recycling. But recycling is a key, and being a chemical engineer, I'm pretty sure you're going to get involved with it yourself.
I love it. I love the recycling.
What are you going to do after you graduate? Like, what's your plan? How does it work here when the students that go to college here, the foreign students, what happens? You graduate, then what? You in particular, what are you going to do?
Usually, you get a time in order to look for a job here. So people who would like to stay here, they look for a job, and if not, they go back home, or they look for a master's degree, keep on studying, whatever. When talking about myself, I don't know yet. Why I don't know yet? Because I have many options, and I would need to choose one, such as you. I'm doing a lot of stuff, like I've invested money in the stock market. I'm doing some businesses outside, like working hard part-time. So I don't know what I'm gonna do. But I think I'm gonna go by the entrepreneur field.
Yeah.
I think being an entrepreneur, bringing technologies to all over the world, like research and technology, it's awesome to have it in first world countries. But I think third world countries are the ones that really need that pump, because first world countries, they get their raw materials from third world countries.
Yes, that's right.
So you need to kind of go to the circular economy and pump it up a little bit more in the basis, so that you are sure that all the factors in your equation are working properly.
Yes.
Yeah.
I see. That's a good plan. And the key that you have is a can-do attitude. And you have vision. A lot of people don't have either. So if you have the vision and the can-do attitude, that's how good things come. And you know what's funny? A lot of the resources do come from third world countries, and they're exploited for it into the first world countries, the US as an example. So a lot of raw materials come from countries people have never even heard of. And unfortunately, the living standards, the people are not paid what they should be paid to extract those raw materials.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I wish I could have a bigger hand in that. But it's an unfortunate circumstance. But I think with your dedication and your philosophy, you could probably make things better.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very happy and calm that as I have options, I don't need to worry about sticking to one.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you stick to one and you fail to that one, you get depressed and you start thinking like, oh, there's no other way to do these things.
Yeah.
So I think I'm very open to whatever.
Yeah, always
the future
be
comes.
open and accept failure. I'm a big believer in loving failure. I love failing because it teaches you a lot of things.
Yeah, that's right.
Obviously, so a lot of people are afraid of it. Oh, what if I? No. But just do it, like I said. Just do it and
do it.
See what happens. Not to rip off Nike or anything like that, but yes, just do it.
Hey, we wish we will be. I think we will be sponsored by Nike in the future, so we can say
first Soneto and then Nike.
Yeah,
that's
right,
the goal.
That's
the goal.
the
First
goal.
tequila, then sneakers. Okay.
Well, wrapping it up. Do you have anything to share with our audience?
No, this was a great time chatting with Orlando. I appreciate everybody listening to this podcast and what he has to say.
For the people who made it through this moment?
Yeah, for people who made it this far, whoever's still listening, and maybe we'll be meeting each other again in another podcast in the future. I'll see you in Miami. Your next podcast is in Miami. So that's where you got to meet me.
I don't know if it's going to be in Miami, the next one, but with you, for sure, my friend.
Good. Perfect.
Sure.
Perfect. Anyway, no questions from me. It was a great time.
Thank you very much for everyone for watching this podcast with this episode. Thank you very much to Teotihuacan Restaurant for being an awesome host, together with me, of course. And thank you very much, Tequila Soneto, Rondon Abuelo, 509 Drinks, and Temuaya Liquor. Thank you very much, people, and see you next time. We out. Thank you very much for watching this episode. Like the video in case you liked it, and leave a comment below for further improvement of our content. As well, if you like topics such as new technologies, research done in universities, or even wonderful stories of incredible people, subscribe to our channel. This is how you find us in social media. I want to give a special thanks to all my sponsors and team members. Y recuerda, toma pulque y come nopal, que la próxima semana, otro video.